It's not a poem. But this is me roasting a eugenicist or just eugenicist period, actually. It's designed to do so. In a giftedness Discord server. Fancy that. The thread was actually asking, why are they drawn to this? Why are high IQ people drawn to that thing? I said skill issue. Purified by being so smart, you can let everyone breed and choose their ideal genetic configuration at their choice. And they'll do the right one because it's no duh at that point. And you'll have bestowed upon the lesser beings your glorious powers, skill, mercy, and mogging. They love to say mogging in this chat. Be that smart, or kick yourselves at your own club, Eugenesis. Design something so profoundly valuable and vastly over the top to prove the validity and stake your rightful claim to your superiority complex once you've produced something useful and then done something of actual value with it, dude. Put those innovative master race genes to use for a method you could even benefit from. Are you truly satisfied with your own partially inhabited blue-balled state of limbo in perpetual decoupling from your own true wholeness, forever unable to touch the form you so fervently insisted yourself to assume the role of, when you were always only a mere image and poser of the actualities you could have realized and enhanced, but now never will reconcile with the knowledge of the fact that all you desired this whole time was merely to kill people, because you were affected by them enough to allow that victory over the stability of your emotional control state. Your very sense of volition itself was corrupted and hijacked by all these supposedly thoughtless beasts, and yet you could never say you truly grasped them for all they were to begin with. And now, tempted by these faulty meat vaults, you have given into your baser defensive instincts to eliminate that which poses a threat to you as an organism. Poses a threat to you, and oh so great and presently, apparently, and clear for the eye to see unearned and falsified sense of self-security and integrity. They might even pose a threat to your existence, and not by merit of beastly impulse, but could you bear to hear it without cracking at your core? Your dependence on them. Why such a higher and indisputably higher mode of conscious existence of yourself ever be subjugated to the actions or inactions of that which you place at the same categorical value assessments that of cattle? Ask yourself, who is really in control here? What would be you without them? What would be of you? I made a lot of errors in this fucking type up. Could you ever even truly separate out and distinguish yourself from such a pestilent and persistent existence? To assign as though God lesser value to your peers, or at least your cohorts, all the while remaining an incomplete, impotent, fallible, and vulnerable entity that asserts no rightful claim to dominion or absolution over them, even if you could, is itself the most culpable form of subhuman behavior. You're basically a reptilian at that point. So, if genociders form a union, Sigma they're sorry forms. Sigma they're sorry. As is Texas style baby, Sigma mail their ass with, okay. And then I started shitposting. Most of that was a shitpost, but you see what I mean. You may not see what I mean whatsoever. You need the attention of other people to live, even if you are just a narcissist, eugenicist, who thinks that you're good without people. Like, really, who's going to make the food? Who's going to pay your lighting bill? Who's going to make the things that you don't know how to make? Gasoline, you're just going to get that all on your own. You're going to do high-level chemistry to create medicines. You're going to do social engineering and therapy for everybody involved in the clinic. Or just yourself, or you're going to find weapons. Where exactly? What if they, like, it's not a situation like that. You're going to make new ones? Sure, you can make tools. But, like, you get my point. You could be put in solitary confinement and immediately fall to pieces, even if it was a relatively stimulating and enriched environment. It's the lack of other people's attention. And if they're around you and they don't care, you're lonely. And that sucks. Truth? What if everyone's lying to you all the time? You have to fight to find the truth and their attention. You have to go through a million trials just to present yourself before them as though you didn't go through hell. I mean, I'm sort of assuming the unhealthy, poor, hungry, tired starting point. Love, in every sense, romantically, I suppose. People are giving you attention and truth. That's kind of love in a way, like who aren't romantically involved with you, but if there's still a platonic love missing, if they're just giving you attention and truth, like goods, various things, some of which I mentioned. Gas, information, even though we're in an information overload, what would we do without it? This is one of the bases of my theory, is that we live in an information prime era. Comparatively. Not relative to what we could have, though. Healthcare. Appendicitis you could die from. Goodness, peace, empathy, strength, capability of self-determined freedom. Are you just given all of these things? Can they even be earned? If you try your hardest and do it well, do you surmount and conquer all of them at once? Do the other ones not come along and wallop you, assuming like they're not related to each other? Like, just because you have calories does not mean that you're going to get healthcare or information. Like, it could lend itself to that purpose, but it's really not going to. Capability of self-determined freedom is really the core deficit and lack that we face and suffer from here, in this realm. Humans default to repeated mistakes, war, and ignorant recklessness mainly. Speeding on the highway drunk. Deciding to kill a massive amount of people in a retaliatory strike, or an old, basically large version of a property dispute that's old as, like, one of the oldest friends I have, 30 years longer. I'm talking about Russia and Ukraine, and I'm talking about Israel and Palestine right now. If there even would be a Palestine remaining. It's horrible. There's already enough suffering in the world. You would not believe the number of things that God and the serpent kills. Existence is a horrible, horrible torture. Mass murder. Horrible death rate. The survivability rate for the human condition is 0. Neglect, either on your part or on other people's parts. Neglect to clean up the environment. Neglect to become all that they could be neglected. So they have to neglect things because they don't have another choice. That's me and some people I know. Assuming they're telling the truth. I wasn't there. I don't see why they would lie about it. They are not getting anything from me, so maybe they're just doing it for fun. Yeah, really likely. If reality was a person, we would charge it with war crimes. There is currently no recourse for the dead. Trapped in vicious cycles of not having enough to do enough. We don't have enough IQ to make ourselves higher IQ. Any of us. We don't have enough time on Earth to figure out immortality. We don't have enough time to spare to spend our time the way we want to and not suffer, such that the time we spend on the things we would rather be spending on is spent horribly because it's not even meeting baseline minimum requirements. The strongest among us are still largely incapable. They will also not take care of us as they are now. They are not. They don't do it. They never have. Humans are all we can be. There's some serious problems with us, each other, ourselves, what it means to be us. Could use some elaboration and respecting it too. So elaborate on it, but respect it. Because otherwise, what's the point? You continue to exist in an intolerable state that it's just basically coping and refusing to even go into the first stage of the 5 stages of grief, first of which is denial. You're denying to go into denial. Elite coping strategy, elite coping skills, but doesn't change the fact that we're in a slaughterhouse, a torture bin. And if you don't respect human nature, and you seek to liberate it from itself, that could be anything from being jacked into a matrix, feeding you a line of phenylethylamines, to death, to something inconsequential that we don't understand or know, where there's nothing left of people at all. And why forsake ourselves? Transcend ourselves? Sure. As long as we remain in control, how would we do that? No fear, I will explain shit. I will explain a lot of things and a lot of shit, and it will maybe make some sense, because I should have been prioritizing this harder, but I didn't. I hate myself for that. As long as someone can do it, it's designed such that as long as it's accomplished, all things resolve. All things resolve. You believe that? I sound crazy. It's not. It's not. Fire was crazy. Electricity was crazy. The Industrial Revolution, was crazy. Nuclear fission, democracy, colonization, the internet, the phone, a picture of Earth from space. The last two happened because someone took a lysergic. Well, it wasn't a base or an alkaline, let's just say. We are facing too many polycrises to accept any of this. For instance, there is no control group in science. You take a unique group, which is being studied, and you take the control group, who is standard or average. There's nothing exceptional about them. So you take your research group and you take your control group and you separate them and you study the effects separately. Gives you a differential if you're doing it right. Well, what ended up happening when we tried to do that with microplastics? There was no control group. They found that it is in our hearts, in our brains. It damages cells. I bet if you graphed the rise of microplastics with the rise in mental health crises and the reverse Flynn effect, just Google the Flynn effect, Flynn effect. It was pretty awesome. Now it's going backwards. They also did studies on goldfish, and I believe based on the mechanism, they found that it was common to eukaryotes, or just anything that reproduces not asexually. And they found that the goldfish were okay, and then they quickly, within a very short span of generations, lost the ability to reproduce. This happened with microplastics and medication metabolite byproducts. And there's a lot more than those two things, too. They don't just do that. Our air, our land, our water. ancestors would be pleased. There's no recourse for the dead. We're becoming the walking dead, living in a desolate state that we have the full ability to escape and no excuse not to. As far as I can tell. I'm not whispering just to be dramatic or anything. I don't want to wake up my people I love it. There's a lot of polycrises: global warming, tyranny, war, social unrest, economic downturn, internet overload, the reverse Flynn effect, pollution, catastrophe, cataclysm, ignorance, eugenics, and also people who should be we'll just say dysgenics. Both of those things are terrible. I think a eugenicist is a dysgenicist, honestly. AI, Elon Musk taking ketamine, little freaking out there, dude. I would know. I did 35 weeks of it. Bro should not be doing that. What the? Well, who am I to say who should or shouldn't be doing something? But maybe just don't do any responsibility-based tasks. The strongest among us are still largely incapable. They will also not take care of us as they are now. As they are now, right? We're facing too many polycrises to accept any of this. There is only one way out. Afterlife is still not guaranteed, I'm sorry to tell you. I used to want it to be, and I believed many things. All of the things that I'm exposed to. Some things that I may have even forgotten about. I've had strange spiritual experiences that could not be chalked up to drug or mental illness-based, induced experiences. Precognitive dreams, for instance. Astral projection and things of that nature have been done by other people as well. Control. Forcible control. And excessive finance ruins it all. It runs it all, my bad. Control and excessive finance runs it all. If they can't puppeteer you with the money, they wipe you out. That sounded very Joker-esque. Wow. Not super cool. There was a mathematician named, I don't know his first name, sadly, because I'm having neurological decline, chronic pain, all kinds of things going on at once. I'm not taking very good care of myself. I'm having depression, which can actually lower your intelligence and all other cognitive abilities. It causes serious problems. Anyway, I'm suffering from that, so I'm not working as hard as I could. I'm behind many, many years because of this. Some people are dead. Some people are maimed. Some people are dying, impoverished and dirty. It's not fair. Some people are being murdered. Some people are being assaulted. Some people are being stolen from. Some people are stealing, domineering, losing, taking their sweet ass time when it wasn't that kind of situation. Imagine the ambulance is just casually strolling up playing like Lil Peep or something while your aunt is stroking out and having a seizure violently. It's just like, yo, what's good? That's sad. We're gonna play Star Shopping because she's gonna be seeing one star. We're gonna have to help her pick one because we're not doing shit. Gödel's incompleteness theorem remains unassailable. That fucking transition. Gödel had a proof that I believe it was something along the lines of a mathematical equation cannot inherently be enough to solve itself. Boom, voila. The human condition. We can't transcend ourselves. We can't get, even if we could figure it out and get everyone to cooperate, and it wasn't as urgent as it was, and there weren't so many things going on, and weren't all such high maintenance entities that no. And salvation, no, it's not going to work. Humans can't solve human. Math cannot solve math. Can reality solve reality? If it can't, something's a little fucking broken and jagged. And we shouldn't be here, or we should simulate ourselves down into our own little world while we can and try to find some other way out. Maybe a black hole escapes. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with the fundamental fabric of existence. But someone could. There's a way. If a math problem cannot prove itself and a human cannot increase their own ability and be entirely self-sufficient, what's the point? Well, maybe if you could expand your knowledge base enough to forcibly solve a problem with sheer consciousness, then you might be able to subvert that enough times to create a feedback loop of great, immense power. I kind of gave it away there, but we're not totally done. At all. Not at all. I wish. We are dropping off far too fast and the suffering is far too great. Yeah, we are. We are dropping off fast and they're not coming back. Humans do not cooperate enough to solve this as we are. We are powerless in the ways that matter most. Keeping our pets alive, keeping ourselves alive, having easy access to food, doing things that are pleasurable, innovating things, getting rid of terrible, terrible, terrible things, not having to be worked half to death all the time, not having to be expected to pay outrageous medical bills, not having to defend ourselves from each other or from wild animals or from the elements, or just in order to exist, we might collapse the great filter on ourselves and never become a spacefaring race. Why do people want to go to space? There's nothing out there, guys. It's all in here. It's here. This is the final frontier. You could do both. Did you know that there's more beneath us than there is above us? I'm talking about small things versus big things. You know, they put the numbers at the top right side of some things, so like 10 with a little 6 would be a million. 10 with 9 would be a billion, and 12 would be a trillion. There are 10 to the 26, which means 10 times itself 26 times, every single time getting bigger and bigger based on the previous. That's a lot of stuff above us. It's like 10 to the negative, in the small direction, 10 to the negative 32nd power below us. Well, consciousness is radiative, and it goes in and outward. That's all I can think to say. Actually, I wrote a small paragraph on it, but it's not quite here right now. I'd have to stop the recording in an annoying way. We're powerless in the ways that matter most. Things are getting worse. Things are getting worse and better enough to warrant mass self-imperishment. Because we are powerless in the ways that matter most. Things are getting better. Things are getting worse. Why can't we have what's better? If things really are better, why are things getting worse? Why are things getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse? Like, no, we should leave, is what our brain will tell us. One moment. I need to clip a single toenail. I'm having aphasia. That's why. I forgot. Yeah. Did I actually forget it? No, I put it in my pocket and I didn't remember. I put it in my pocket and I didn't remember. I'm 25. This shouldn't happen. It shouldn't. For example, I will tell the entire story as it happened, as I perceived it, like as in what I was able to perceive, or no, from my perspective, my biased perspective, after what actually just happened objectively, and then what I knew of the situation. If I can dig deeper, I'll find it and share. But at one time, 3 times total, but at one time, I was taken and at threat of homelessness, forced to be in mental health treatment centers. Well, treatment centers. More like treatment camps. I mean, I'm fucking serious. I just hurt my foot because I wasn't paying attention, but it's all good. It's not even that bad. It's not bleeding, so it's not even red yet. Delayed effect death. No, we're good. So part of the problem with I forgot what I was saying. Oh, I was forced to take up to 15 different kinds of medications that were all very strong. Some people, rightfully so, and I've been this person in the past with either something as benign. It's not benign. It can be harmful. Cannabis, weed, THC, other drugs. Drugs I've been forced to be on. Desolate states I've just fallen into, such as depression or chronic fatigue or COVID. Other things too. Injuries, whatever. Chronic pain, insomnia. And then drugs that I chose to take because I felt like it. Or no, if I said that first, then the second one I meant was drugs that I was put on. And now I didn't have to take them, but I didn't want to be homeless. I was told I would not have to be homeless if I just completed their little treatment. It was a lot like a certain video game I played. No one's gonna really probably get the comparison. One of those meds can ruin someone's lives. They have interactions with each other. They can make each other stronger, weaker, worse. They had effects on the heart. I had already beat up my heart because I couldn't work out with chronic pain for a lot of years because it would make my joints freaking grind. And then I also did drugs that would affect your heart. And then they did it. Brutally. I shouldn't be here, technically speaking. And each of those brain drugs has a multi-complex effect on the brain. And then they all overlap on each other. There's 86 billion of those. You could say a shit ton. And we could not publish enough scientific articles yet in the world to fully, comprehensively, absolutely describe the effects of a single drug on a single person, much less even a single brain cell. Maybe that. It's guaranteed not to carry over too much because it's all dependent pattern relation and environmental genetic dependence. And when I say environmental with the brain, I mean like zinc status, fluid levels. Like there's a number of things going on in there that's going to impact it. Too many receptors to count. Unfixable damage that I sustained in many ways. Also from the pollutants in the world, like I was explaining. So, why should someone have to be subjected to that? You're seeing how it's affecting me. I don't believe that mass death is necessarily the answer, but it is an answer. And I'm offering this as my last-ditch effort for everybody else, because it's the 4 to the 2 plus 2. How do you solve reality? I got you. I accidentally came up with it a long time ago. So I'm not even like super egotistical about it, actually. I just want to benefit from it like I wish everyone else could. God. We're not prepared to face true threat, such as alien invasion. Not really like a thing per se, but I mean, we don't know. Technically, we don't know. If we knew so well, why haven't you cured? Insert anything. To like a Neil deGrasse Tyson person, that was not directed like at you, like you're good. Every act is an act of war. Presently, it shouldn't have to be. Why try for things we don't want? Statistically, people waste too much time and don't have enough. We don't have a way out of this. There's also too much uncertainty and not enough time in a day. Why not just do something good if you knew it was your last day to live? Would you really just like go to work and go like, all right, this will give me more money for a surprise expense 2 years down the line? Like, no. Except that could be that case any time. Makes me nuts. We cannot perfectly calculate a damn thing. Heard of the double slit experiment? Any scientist wants to cry at me about it? Reality is far too complex. Far too complex for... If you put all of the human brains together, just the brain, it wouldn't be very much. It wouldn't be very big. That's going to change everything. It's impressive that we can, somewhat. But we lack reach and finality of decision and comprehensive actual absolute totality of grasp of knowledge and truth and logic, safety, satisfaction, protection, resolution of issues, expansion, progress and innovation, transcendence of whatever this is. Almost all things you could do are wrong because of reality. Almost all things you could do, you will never get to do. Almost all things you could do, that's a lot of them, you will never get to do but a sliver of a selection of all of those things. How do you pick? Do you even pick? You should be able to pick and do them all. I want that to happen. That's why I present this, sloppy as it might be at present, given that I'm suffering from the problem. We fail to realize the extent of our helplessness and powerlessness. Okay. So now we're going to integrate a bunch of stuff in here, and that was not the final take. No one's seen most of that. That was very aggressive.